We are back after 5 days off, right? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's Monday. It's the 4th of November. And, well, we I got warm air coming up again. We might set some record highs on Wednesday, maybe even a few places tomorrow where the fruit is hanging low. Severe weather tonight from the southern plains to the middle Mississippi Valley. We've got tropical storm Rafael in the Caribbean, moving northward toward Jamaica, and eventually you'll wind up in the Gulf of Mexico. And is there rain in the forecast in the longer range? There may very well be here. All of that tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast by shopping at Amazon via the referral link that's pinned at the top of the chat board or on the description to this podcast. It's easy. You do your shopping. Amazon kicks us back a little bit of coin, and it doesn't come out of your pocket. And we do appreciate your support, particularly with the holidays coming. We all have gifts to buy. So here we are. I had spectacular weather the while I was away, so I was very happy.
Well, I'm very happy that everything worked out for you, and you were telling me off air about how wonderful the reception was for your daughter.
Oh,
And
everything was the wedding, the ceremony, the reception. It was really nice not to have to drive someplace because uh, the reception was on the grounds of this. Uh, we stayed at it was at the Kent Island Resort in Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. And if you've never been there, it's really beautiful. And my daughter picked it out. She did pretty much everything in terms of the arrangement. I mean, it went perfectly from start to finish. No drama of any kind, which was even better. And the best prime rib that I think I've ever had was at this was some of that was one of the food items that they had. It was really really good. Those didn't have a sit down dinner. There was yeah your cocktail hour, which was outside, and they had lobster rolls, which I just love, and the they had stations for dinner for the dinner. And the thing was that so you got to go up and basically eat whatever everybody had a choice. It was all sorts of different choices. But the main thing I always find that when you go to weddings and there's a sit down dinner, they make the food ahead of time and they heat it up and they bring it out on the plate and it's lukewarm at best. Uh, the food was all hot, fresh, and just it was just amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So anyway, I'm now after 22 hours of driving, 11 hours gone, 11 hours up and 10 hours back, almost 22 hours. Um, I'm getting back to normal.
well, I'm happy that everything worked out, and it's just great. And it looks like the weather really hasn't changed all that much in the 5 days that we were away.
No, no, I know Vincent Croce, my dog, did not go this time. He went to his Uncle Owen's house and he stayed there for 5 days with his girlfriend Gracie, and they lived in sin. Yeah,
Right.
see, nothing much has changed. The southeast ridge that's been there is still there, and it ebbs and flows, ebbs and flows. However, I think it relaxes enough at the end of the week that we may actually have a rain coming for Sunday into early Monday.
And it may very well be related in part to the new tropical system that we're watching. And this is actually we had we there's another system way out there. It looks like it's going to make its way towards Spain and Portugal.
Well,
And this is Patty.
That was Patty. Yeah, it
That
was
was
Patty.
Patty. And I said to Renata this morning, I said, if it were 20 years ago, maybe even only 10 years ago, that never would have gotten a name. But I guess if it looks, you heard the old saying, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it must be a duck. I guess somebody over at National Hurricane Center must have made a determination that, hey, this looks a lot like a tropical system. Why don't we call it and give it to,
Yeah.
and so it became Patty
Well,
for.
it was inside an upper low, and it got, they had gales in the Azores because, so it got another name. It got them to 17, which was the bottom of their forecast.
I think that's one of the reasons why they wanted to name. They were we're into November now, so to get tropical systems going to be like pulling hen's teeth. So
Right.
this system that we're watching, Rafael, will indeed grow into a full-fledged tropical system, or maybe even a hurricane. In fact, what was the system that you were talking about a week or two ago? That was really a glorified severe thunderstorm
Oh,
that got
that
in.
was the O storm. What was the
That was
O name?
Oscar. That was
Oscar,
Oscar.
yes. That was
Yeah.
a glorified severe thunderstorm.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
this one's a little bigger than a glorified severe thunderstorms in terms of its geographic coverage. But, you know, uh, the southeast ridge means that pressures in the Caribbean are lower than normal, and they're probably going to stay that way for a while longer. So don't be too shocked if another one forms down there before the month is over with.
it's kind of like a what a gyre of sorts.
Yeah, you got there's really since the beginning of September. Uh, it's been that way. So we've already and we've spat out a number of storms that have in that area this particular hurricane season. So you might as well go for one or two more before it's all said and done. We've got severe weather tonight from the southern plains to the middle Mississippi and Missouri River valleys. I noticed earlier there were a ton of severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings that were running around that were up. And for the east, it still remains parched, although um, I'm happy here because it looks like for Wednesday night, later Wednesday and Thursday, I'm going to get a good soaking rain here. I mean, it hasn't really, except for Helene, it hasn't rained for 6 weeks. I mean, it's just been dead. So everything is like cement. So I'm looking forward to getting a good soaking rain.
And it has been, as many people up here are well aware, it has been very dry, and we're now in many spots here in the tri-state area. I guess you could say we're in a Category 1, and in some cases down towards central and southern New Jersey, a kind of a Category 2 drought. Uh, that long stretch of dry weather in October, the relatively dry September, where we had less than 2 inches of rain, all of that is starting to come back on us now in terms of dry conditions, and it's not just abnormally dry anymore. We are into at least in many locations a full fledged drought.
Yeah, the one upside though is that at least it's having it now this time of year. If we can get into a wet weather pattern going forward, uh, it'll soak up pretty quickly, as opposed to say if it were in the middle of the summertime where it rains and then it just evaporates and it takes probably it's going to take less rain to break the drought going forward than it would if we were, say, in May or June and going into the summer months. So that's one positive. That's you know, one redeeming quality of all of this. Chuck Cardillo hitting super chat tonight, first one of the night. Thank you, Chuck. We missed you too, and appreciate the kind words with regards to my daughter's wedding. Welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board, and to those of you watching in the background, welcome to our Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We had taken a little bit of time off these last 5 days, but we are back now, and we'll be on. Normally, we're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m., so we're back to our normal schedule here. Fridays and Saturdays are off days unless there's a storm running around someplace of consequence, in which case we'll throw on an extra show or two. Make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And if you like the show, hit the like button. So we might as well start with Rafael. And now that we're back on standard time, it's great. Guidance is an hour earlier. The advisories are an hour
Oh, it's
earlier.
wonderful,
I'm just
wonderful.
so, I'm just so happy. Um, Rafael the center is approaching Jamaica. And at 7 p.m., the center was at 15.8 and 76.9 if you're plotting. And that position is okay. That is 150 miles south of Kingston, Jamaica. It is 370 miles southeast of Grand Cayman Island, moving at 345 degrees or north northwest at 9. And top winds at the moment are 45 miles per hour. We've got hurricane warnings up for the Cayman Islands, hurricane watch for much of western Cuba, a tropical storm warning in effect for Jamaica, and a tropical storm watch up for central Cuba, also for the lower and middle Florida Keys. We have a tropical storm watch from Key West to west of the Channel 5 bridge. And of course, it's always the dry tortugas that are involved in these things. But looking at the satellite loop during the day, I mean, it has just been this kind of steady increase in convection around the center. So it is becoming better organized. You're starting to see some evidence of a little bit of banding going on. And that move now, if you follow the floater image, it's north northwest. And the thing is, Joe, but while it's in the Caribbean, it could strengthen. We might go into a little, a stretch of rapid strengthening at some point later tonight and tomorrow. But once it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, listen, I'm going to switch over to the U.S. satellite loop here for a moment. If you look at the Gulf of Mexico, I mean, there's hardly any moisture there. Uh, yeah, of course, the Gulf is all there. Obviously, there's moisture in the water, but in terms of the in the air, I mean, the air has been so dry in the eastern part of the United States, and with that southeast ridge extending as far south as it is, and this is not July or August or September. This is November. And when it gets up in there, it's going to be fighting uh, dry air. It's going to be fighting strong southwest winds aloft, and slightly cooler Gulf of Mexico water temperatures, which have cooled a little bit in the last several weeks. So I'm thinking, by the time when it gets into the Gulf, even if it gets into the Gulf as a hurricane, the Hurricane Center's forecast as it weakening back to a tropical storm, and I think that makes sense given everything that's going on. You can see it here on their latest forecast track. Uh, they've got it that H going up, crossing western Cuba, and then going northwestward. Weakens into a tropical storm by 1 p.m. Saturday. I think that idea makes sense. And the other thing I would just point out is that the tropical moisture that this thing is going to generate may get some of that may get involved with that weather front that's going to be approaching for Sunday, which would be good news because then at least that maybe there'll be a decent rain, maybe it'll be a decent rainfall and not just a couple of tenths.
It's going to be also bucking a big ridge of high pressure over the Northeast and Mid Atlantic later on in the week and trying to dislodge it. I think for this upcoming weekend, it'll probably be okay on Saturday, but as Joe mentioned on Sunday, as the front approaches from the west and as Rafael or the remnants thereof tries to move up from the south, all of that moisture will combine and coalesce into eventually cloud cover and eventually some wet weather. Still a bit early to start making specific projections as to just how much rain we may get out of this. I know that one of the local TV weather forecasters here in New York has already talked about the possibility of maybe a half inch or more coming our way by later Sunday. But again, still kind of early in the game to start making any speculation aside from just saying that it does give us hope that we will be seeing for the first time in a long time something more than just a couple of drops here and there, or a couple of sprinkles or light showers here and there in terms of significant precipitation. Again, October, the driest month ever at Central Park, 1/100th of an inch of rain for the entire month. And so far, November hasn't seen all that much rain either.
Steve Lapointe, thanks for hitting super chat tonight. Yes, I I'm not losing a daughter, I'm gaining a ton. Is that the line from the honeymooners? Now, Brian's my new son-in-law. He's a good guy. Um, a very good guy. I'm very happy. And Paul Roman, thank you for hitting super chat. And yes, Joe and I, we do enjoy our time off. Um, so can you, I have the sharing turned on. Would you mind doing some local radars from just to keep yourself in practice for if it ever rains again, from East Texas on up into Missouri? Because when you look at the satellite loop, and I have the loop with the lightning flashes, there's a fairly impressive, almost looks like a double line of thunderstorms that have developed and are they're kind of moving. The cells look like they're moving north northeast while the line is slowly edging eastward, and you can see it on the wide view here on the radar. We've got a bunch of severe thunderstorm and flash flood warnings. So if you could do that, Mr. Rayo, that would be lovely.
Going to be doing it just right at this moment. Hang on.
Perfect.
Whoops. Can you see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Is that Kylene or Killeen?
I think it's Killeen.
Killeen or whatever. Well, anyway, you could see from the Killeen, Texas radar, Fort Hood radar, if you will, that there's a growing line of showers and embedded thunderstorms that is growing right before your very eyes. This is a 3-hour loop, and you see that line extending from northeast down through the southwest. Let's go a little further to the north. Let me go up to Dallas Fort Worth, and you can see that, well, the amount of precipitation rapidly racing away toward the east, but you see that there's another area, another cluster of showers and storms developing literally right over the Dallas Fort Worth area during the last few frames of the loop. And again, some of this activity rather potent. You could see by the shades, the dark shades of red, indicating that some of these storms probably are capable of producing strong gusty winds and maybe even spawning a tornado or two. We go up to into Oklahoma, and actually, let me just this is Oklahoma City, but let me move a little bit further to the east, over toward Fort Smith, Arkansas, Slatington Mountain, and you can see again that that's that area we were looking at on the Dallas radar of showers and embedded thunderstorms. Some of that activity rather hefty indeed, crossing over from Oklahoma into northwestern Arkansas. And again, all of this activity basically concentrating over the south central part of the country. Here we have St. Louis, Missouri, a St. Charles area, showers and again scattered storms. Nothing, I mean, in terms of organization, there's a lot to see here, but nothing like the lines of heavy showers and storms that we saw further south, down in Dallas, for example, and in portions of Oklahoma and Arkansas. But again, all this activity pushing along from south-southwest to north-northeast, and again, some of the activity indicative of the dark shades of red, showing that there are areas that are probably receiving not just heavy-duty rains, but also perhaps some strong, gusty, if not damaging winds, and who knows, maybe even spawning a funnel cloud or two here and there. Let's continue northward. Let's go up into, this is Lincoln, Illinois, and the activity doesn't seem quite as intense as we move into central Illinois. We don't see quite as much in the way of red coloration, but still, wherever you see the yellows and the oranges, probably some heavy-duty rain coming down, much needed rain that we could use here in the Northeast, but that's not here yet. And if we move a little bit more to the east, let's go into Kentucky, Louisville. Well, we don't see very much Louisville picking up on some of that activity over in central Illinois, but Kentucky is pretty well in the clear right now. They're part of that ridge of high pressure and dry air that is occurring. If we go a little bit further back to the south and west, let's go to Little Rock, Arkansas. You can see even in Little Rock, not much happening specifically, but you go to the north and west, up into the northwest corner of Arkansas, and you can see those showers and also embedded thunderstorms that are occurring up there. So, Joe, I mean, we've seen all the showery conditions, all the wetness that's going on, again, over the Southland, over portions of Oklahoma and Texas. And uh, again, that activity not really heading in our direction yet here in the Northeast. We'll have to wait again for that front to come in later in the weekend, and maybe some of the remnants of what is currently being watched for an intensifying tropical cyclone down in the
Rafael. You have to
Rafael.
roll. You have to roll the R. Rafael.
Yes, and that's what storm number 18, I think.
Seven. I thought it was 17.
I thought Patty was 17. I don't
No,
know.
P. 15. Right?
A B C D E F G H
H
I
I
J
J A
K
L M N O. So Patty was what? 16.
16.
And
So this is 17.
Rafael is 17.
And so
It's,
congratulations to the National Hurricane Center. They made it barely into their 17 to 20. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near 24, but they did reach the bottom end of that projection in terms of number of hurricanes or named storms that we would have in this particular season, this particular year.
we, by the way, do have some rain in northeastern New York tonight and in Vermont, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and in Maine and up the St. Lawrence Valley. Because that's where the warm front is, and everybody else, as you head down the eastern seaboard, except for a little spotty light rain in parts of South Georgia and coastal Georgia. Actually, that stuff is moving in from the east, believe it or not. If you look at the radar echoes, they're actually going east to west underneath that strong East Coast ridge. And you see all the stuff that's in the middle with the severe weather, and then there's some precipitation up in the Pacific Northwest, and some of that is also in the form of snow. Storm Prediction Center tonight, give this a refresh. 3 tornado watches in play at the moment from Northeast Texas up into Southwest Missouri, inside an area of enhanced risk, and that's now narrowed as it was bigger earlier when the storms were first developing. But we do have in this narrow enhanced risk a 10% chance of tornadoes, and some of those could even be EF2 or greater tornadoes. 5% pushes up into northern Missouri. The 2% line goes into Illinois. The next couple of days, the severe weather is much less. Two small areas tomorrow, one in Wisconsin, another one in Louisiana, southeast Texas, and also in southeast Arkansas. And on day three, we don't have any severe weather except for the Keys, where, of course, now you start to talk. You deal with uh, the leading edge of Rafael and some general thunderstorm activity being indicated for Georgia, Florida, across the Gulf states, and up into parts of the Tennessee and lower Ohio Valley. Rainfall amounts. WPC only has about a tenth of to maybe at most a quarter of an inch on their forecast, uh, but this could go up depending. Again, a lot's going to depend on how Rafael tracks and what happens to it when it gets into the northern Gulf. Where is it when it gets to the northern Gulf? It's too far west, and a lot of that rain could wind up going west of the Appalachians. But we do see a solid rainfall being indicated for parts of South Carolina, Georgia, and down across the Gulf Coast. Also, you see it's been raining for several days with thunderstorms in the some parts of the southern plains and also into the western plains, and that's all shifted eastward now. But several inches of additional rainfall from what already has fallen. So that's why we're dealing with flash flooding issues. Heavy rains coming into the Pacific Northwest, and you don't have to really go that far inland to find snow. We do have actually winter storm warnings up for parts of northwestern Washington, away from Seattle and Tacoma. This is in the mountains, obviously, in the Cascades, and also in parts of northern Idaho and northwestern and north central Montana. and you also could see in Texas and in Arkansas those boxes in yellow. That's all tornado watches, and then the reds are for the coastal waters in the Gulf of Mexico, where they already have tropical storm warnings up for that particular region. So. Uh, just to go back to the Rafael for a minute, I just want to show this is the the 0Z, because now with the standard time, we don't have to wait till 9 o'clock to get this. It's at 8 o'clock, and the blue models that you see taking it over Western Cuba and turning straight westward, those are those look like uh, members of the UK Met model. The main cluster just takes it pretty much straight northwest, and then they start to diverge a little bit later in the forecast period. Some members taking it over the Florida Panhandle and moving it up into northwest Georgia, uh, whatever's left, and others a little bit further to the west. One model over Mobile, a bunch of them over southeast Louisiana. So we're going to have to really kind of work that part of the equation out as far as whether some of the moisture from this makes it up. And the intensity models, most of them actually take it up to a Cat 4, and a couple of them take it up to a Cat 2. And I think that's certainly doable. I don't know if it's going to be able to get much beyond that, unless we get one of these big surprises again. But that's in 72 hours. After 72 hours, all of the models, and this would be at the point where we're talking, Thursday and beyond, when it's getting into the Gulf of Mexico, you can see that all of the models show a fairly steady weakening back to a tropical storm. And again, as I said earlier, that probably makes a whole lot of sense. So before we get to the rain issue, Mr. Rayo, we do have this high offshore. We have this warm front to the north. So temperatures tomorrow will have nowhere to go but up. I was thinking middle to upper 70s for most areas in eastern PA to southern New England, maybe a little bit less right along the immediate coast. And then Wednesday, I think it could be another day where it's upper 70s to low 80s and record high temperatures.
Well, I don't know what to say, Joe. The chat board seems to be talking more about baseball while you and
Oh,
I are looking at looking at the
oh, that's all right.
future. But a couple of people were asking about, a pattern change coming around the 10th of November and a trend toward colder and more winterier type conditions. Unfortunately, the master of updates in terms of winter weather, Dr. Judah Cohen, in his latest tweet, or I don't know, X, it's only an hour old. He posted this an hour ago, said, let's be honest, folks. If you're a winter weather enthusiast, Mother Nature has been serving up exclusively lemons, including Siberian snow cover, the polar vortex, and the jet stream. I'll try my best to turn them into lemonade. But he doesn't sound too excited about the outlook, the winter outlook, at least in the initial.
Nothing much is going to change we bring the subject up. Nothing much is going to change until this southeast ridge, this upper high that is just sitting off, kind of vacillates back and forth off the coast, on the coast, but basically it's a southeast ridge, a deep troughing coming down to the western states. And you can see here as we go forward, it kind of ebbs and flows in terms of strength. And over the weekend, it flattens out enough to allow this, not this first round of energy that's going through the middle Mississippi Valley now. That's going to go way to the left, and the cold front by the time it gets here on Wednesday is going to have nothing to it, just like the last one did. The There's a little bit more promise with the second shortwave that drops down into New Mexico and Arizona as it swings east and northeast. That actually uh, maintains a solid identity as it heads up into the Great Lakes. So that I think affords a fair chance for the rain on Sunday. But the ridging in the east doesn't really go away. It got it you get you get breakoffs that kind of flatten it out, and maybe there'll be some, it'll be more like pretty much like what we've been seeing, where you get fronts to go by. You get a shot of chilly air that lasts for a day or two, then it warms up again. I mean, I'm just kind of running through this. Toward the end of the forecast period, you start to see that maybe it's changing, but now we're up to November 20th. I mean, it just keeps pushing it back. We're already at the place where it's pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back. And the other thing I'd point out is again, while we have this southeast ridge, you're going to still have lower than normal pressures in the Caribbean. And you can see that the GFS, which has actually been pretty good at modeling these tropical systems in the longer range in the last 2 months, has another one toward the end of the forecast period in the Northwest Caribbean. So until the southeast ridge gets out of the way, and the lower than normal pressures in the Caribbean disappear, you've got no chance of seeing anything um, with regards to winter weather. It's just not going to happen. Not in the east anyway.
So there you go, folks.
I have bursted all the snow lovers' bubbles. I have bursted. Just for laughs, let's take a look at the snowfall in the west. Since the trough is in the west, if you're a snow lover, we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about the west. So looks like some pretty decent snows for Colorado, including Denver. I mean, or just west of Denver, in the mountains there, um, and extending down in the northern half of New Mexico. And this is through Thursday evening, by the way. And then you've got also some bigger amounts going on in northern Idaho, western Montana, down into western Wyoming, and in a sliver here in the Cascades, where I don't know where that 53 is. Maybe that's Stampede Pass. But there you have it. There's going to be anything winter wise. It's probably going to be in the west until that southeast ridge gets out of the way. So in the meantime, we've got record-breaking temperatures possible on Wednesday, warming up tomorrow, record-breaking on Wednesday, and then we get into this weather front comes through uh, later Wednesday afternoon or evening, has absolutely nothing with it. You can see the tropical moisture from Rafael moving into the Georgia, South Carolina, and then eventually the center just kind of gets absorbed by the next low that's setting up for Friday in Oklahoma, and that runs up to the Great Lakes, and it's from this that maybe, just maybe, we'll get some rain here come Sunday. It is hopeful. In fact, it looks like there's two surges here, Joe. One with like some sort of pseudo warm front that goes by, and then the cold front. And then after that, a little cooler behind it, but nothing to, it gets a little colder up in New England, or next week, Mon- uh, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then that goes out. Another front passes. That goes out. And yeah, I mean, I don't see, we don't seem to be seeing a setup for more record high temperatures. We'll probably have temperatures a little bit closer to normal once we get through the warm spell of this week of Tuesday and Wednesday. In the West, you've got stuff that's coming into the West Coast. So here's the one now with with this shortwave that's dropping southward. There's another one that comes in early next week. And then, and another one that follows that, with rain all the way down into California and Arizona, which is good, and a lot of snow there too, in the west on the long range. So that's all we have. I mean, the pattern's all wrong. It's just simply all wrong.
Well, a lot of people have been pointing out that last autumn, and it was true, it was a rather wet autumn period. Now here we are on the flip side, getting unusually dry conditions. Have had it, will continue to have it, and hopefully we'll be able to break a little bit of it by the weekend with the approach of both that front to the west and also Rafael, or what's left of Rafael, coming up from the south. There have been a few people on the chat board, Joe, that have been asking if we know anything about Craig Allen and his recuperation from having a valve replaced in his heart. And I'm sorry to say that he posted on his page yesterday, and he says, short and sweet to the point for now, he had quite a setback this past week. It was ironic because he said he had just been cleared to slowly return to a more daily life. Maybe he put in parentheses, maybe work. In other words, he was actually contemplating maybe going back in front of the camera on weekends at Channel 2, but only hours after getting that synopsis, only hours after getting that favorable report, he started experiencing pain, debilitating pain, and had trouble inhaling. And that's not what you want to feel after healing so well over the past month. And then when his temperature went up to basically a fever, that's when he knew that there was trouble. So after tests and scans and blood work, he said it turns out that what he suspected, um, he unfortunately is now suffering from pericarditis. And pericarditis is a condition that occurs when the pericardium, the sac that's located around the heart, becomes inflamed. And the symptoms with that include short stabbing chest pains, pain that worsens when you lie down, heavy breathing, coughing, swallowing, the tightness in the chest, shortness of breath, sweating. So, unfortunately, indeed, a setback for poor Craig with this. He is now the doctors are working on bringing down the swelling and inflammation. Um, and to put it mildly, it's going to be a little while longer before he gets back to normal, whatever that might be. So we're hoping that Craig does get back. We wish him all the best, but right now he's still, I guess, fighting off or struggling from his operation from a few weeks ago, setting again a bit of a setback. But again, hopefully he'll take it slowly and work his way back into normal. But again, it's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be tomorrow or next week or maybe even not for another month or two. But hopefully he will be getting back with us soon.
Yes. Lots of positive energy
Yes.
to Craig. All right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy. And by the way, Izzy D, thank you for asking that question, and thanks for hitting the tip jar tonight. Always appreciated. So Briller Jeopardy tonight, Joe.
By the
Thanks
way,
to
before we get into Briller Jeopardy, Cecilia, forget about it. Forget about it. She says on the chat board, Joe, we're hoping that you get back to where you belong on News 12 and Channel 61. That ain't happening. That is not happening. You know, you want to know what the chances of that happening? The chances of that happening is
hell.
if,
We'll have to freeze over twice.
yes, I mean, we would have to have, who's the third party candidate in tomorrow's election? Stein? The chances of Stein winning out and winning the election and becoming our next president, that's about as much of a chance as I have of ever getting back to Channel 12. They don't want me, and quite frankly, I don't want them. So you just stop hoping. It's not gonna happen.
Yep.
All right.
Um. All right. So, thank you, Scott Briller, for sending Briller Jeopardy tonight. In view of the fact that we do have a presidential election tomorrow.
We do?
Um. Yes,
Oh, okay.
and um, it's these are president questions. So everybody put on their history thinking caps. And the first question tonight is which president, uh, which president, Joe, made Christmas a national holiday? Which
You mean
president? Do not Google this, by the way, okay? Try to do this without having to, go to Google.
I didn't know that. I thought Christmas was
No, it
always
was no, it was not. Christmas actually was a fairly minor holiday. It wasn't until the Victorian era that it really gained popularity.
right.
Uh, so
You're
that
right.
that might that might help you with there. So what president made Christmas a national holiday? And I'll give you a hint. He was an avid cigar smoker, just so you know.
Well, we have on the chat board, Joe. We have um,
Okay,
is
so I see.
he says
Eh,
Joe Biden. I don't think Joe
wrong,
Biden it goes all the way back that far.
right,
Grover Cleveland,
wrong,
Lincoln.
wrong,
Christopedia says Taft.
wrong,
William Huber Grant, Ulysses Grant.
and there you have it. Bill Uber gets it. Ulysses S. Grant. 18, I think if I remember correctly, he was president from 1869 to 1877. What is the who was the first president to live in the White House?
The first president to live in the White. Well, wasn't the White House? There was a White House, and then they burn it down, and then they have to rebuild it or something. Or
Yeah, but it's pretty much the same White House.
uh, I don't know.
No, come
Frank
on,
says
come on.
Jefferson. Izzy D says Bush.
No, right. Actually, Maggie P has it. John Adams and Rich
Maggie P says
Rothmansky
Thomas
got
Jefferson.
it too. John Adams.
Oh, wait a minute. Maggie P on the chat board I'm looking at says Thomas Jefferson, unless she changed
No, I
midway.
got her here. It says John Adams. Yeah, it has Adams.
All right.
And Christina Pedia says Adams 2. No, it was Adams 1. And Patrick Darcy Adams. Yes, so there you go. The next question is, who was the first president to be on television?
Ooh. Well, I know that television was on display at the New York World's Fair in 1939, and of course Roosevelt was the president then. So could it have been Franklin Roosevelt?
And Christina Pedia is using the same logic. Yes, it was. It was FDR. FDR. Who was president during World War One?
Um, was the same president who tried to come up with not the United Nations but the League of Nations? Was that? Oh God, I just saw last night a show
Who did
about
did- who did who did Dennis
Woodrow
the
Wilson.
Menace? Yes, I was going to say. Who did Dennis the Menace always say hello to?
Hey, Mr. Wilson.
Correct. And a lot of the folks on the chat board got that one. So we have a lot of smart people on the chat board. Um, and the final question tonight is who was the only president to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court?
In other words, he was a judge on the Supreme Court and then later became president.
No, the other way around.
He was is that can you do that? Can you be the
Sure,
president and go on to the Supreme Court? You know,
sure, you can do it. And
oh,
Frank R. already has the answer. Answer.
was it Taft?
It was William Howard Taft. Yes.
Huh.
There you go. Um, so there you have it. Uh, trying to think if there's anything else I have to say, and I really don't. I'm still kind of tired from my drive. It took it took a lot out of me uh, yesterday for some reason, but I need maybe one more night of a good sleep, and I'll be fine for tomorrow. So anyhow, I guess that's it. Can you say? I guess we say good night.
Well, I want to say first good night. Thank you to all who hit the tip jar tonight. Always appreciated. And we have 52 likes tonight.
Nice.
On
Chuck Cardillo, Steve Lapointe, Paul Roman, Izzy D, all hitting super chat. Don't forget if you want to support our channel, you can should you shop on Amazon, use the referral link at the top of the chat board or on the descriptor to this podcast. We really do appreciate your support. And no, Lord Kate, my car does not have autopilot. It does not drive itself. I did pass a vehicle though on 90 when I was on 95, I think, or 97 that looked like I didn't see anybody in it, but it was a Chevy, and I don't think they have self-driving on Chevys yet. But anyway, um, no, I did all the driving. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night and be safe. If you want to vote tomorrow, go vote. If you don't want to vote, don't go vote. That's the extent of my political, pontification for tonight. Night, night.
Good night, folks.